present here. I, Ms. Preeti, faculty of Symbiosis School for Open and Distance Learning, would like to take this opportunity to welcome you all in the clinical research domain session. Clinical research is the key to the discovery of latest diagnostic methods and to develop modern drugs for treatment of diseases. Compliance with these standards provides assurance to the public that, that the rights, safety, and well-being of trial subjects are protected and consistent. Therefore, it is mandatory for all clinical research professionals to know the safety, quality, and performance of medical devices with respect to the import, manufacture, clinical investigation, sales, and distribution, and also the schedules and chapters included in New Drug and Clinical Trial Rules 2019 for conducting clinical trials in India. On this note, one of the topic for the parallel session is Medical Devices 2017 and New Drugs Clinical Trials 2019. This topic can be considered as an opportunity to imbibe our knowledge with all guidelines regarding medical devices and new rules passed by DCGI in March 2019 for conducting clinical trials. To enlighten us on this important topic, we have with us Dr. Ravindra Gui, Director, Scientia Clinical Services, qualified master in pharmacology with PhD in medicine. He has an additional certification as credit research analyst and also is an approved trainer in GCP. Sir has served as professor, drug discovery and development, Symbiosis School of Biomedical Sciences, Symbiosis International Deemed University, Pune, and was the Dean, Bill Care Research Academy, Pune. He has also served as medical advisor, JK Drugs and Pharmaceuticals, New Delhi, and Unichem Laboratories, Mumbai. He is an acclaimed expert in clinical research field. He has over 50 articles in national and international journals, including The Lancet. He has written a book, Essentials of Clinical Research, which is used in colleges and institutions involved in clinical research. I request Sir to kindly use the platform with his valuable knowledge. A gentle reminder to the delegates to post their questions in the chat box during the session. Sir will be addressing those questions toward the end of the session. I request Sir to kindly take over the session.
Thank you, Preeti. Today, friends, I'll be discussing two things. One is the medical device rules of 2017, and the other one is the new drugs and clinical trial rules of 2019. So, we will first try to understand there are two particular items that we use in medicine. One are what are known as medical devices, and the other one are drugs. So the rules for both of these are slightly different. There's a lot of commonality, but there is a lot of difference also. We'll try to understand the rules, how they came about, what do they tell us, and how do we manage all these things. So let's start with it. Let's remember that the rules for drugs and medical devices have been evolving over a long period of time. In 1989, we got a new addition to the drugs and cosmetic rules, which was known as Schedule Y. This particular section of the rules described how a new drug is to be launched in the Indian market, how it has to be tested, and how it finally comes to the Indian market. In 1996, the international organization called International Conference on Harmonization, also known as ICH, came out with a detailed guidelines called Good Clinical Practice Guidelines. These are the 1996 guidelines called ICH guidelines, which became applicable almost all over the world. As a result of this, in 2001, the Central Drug Standards and Control Organization, the organization in India which controls drugs and devices, prepared its own good clinical practice guidelines and published them in 2001. Now, some devices or very few devices came under the drug law by this time. Subsequently, in 2004 and in 2010, more devices were notified and they all came under the control of the drugs controller. In 2017, the medical device rules were brought in. These rules were actually published in 2017, but they became applicable from 2018. Also remember that certain sections of these rules are going to become applicable only in October 2021. So the rules are not totally applicable. There is a small part that remains. In 2019, a new drug and clinical trial rules were published and they became applicable in 2019. So currently we have the medical device rules of 2017, which are controlling the medical devices, and the new drugs and clinical trial rules of 2019, which control the drugs. So let us try to understand the difference between this and how these are governed. You all know that we have two types of governments. One is the central government and one is the state government. The central government is based in Delhi, the state government is based in Bombay, for us in Maharashtra state. There are certain items that are under the central government, there are certain items under the state government. Now, these items of the central government are about 97 items, and state government is 61 items. However, there are certain items like health which are present in both sides. So, thus, you have a health minister in Maharashtra, you also have a health minister at the center. Okay? Now, if you look at it, you don't have a defense minister in the center, state. The defense minister is only in the central government. There is no defense minister in the state government. That's why certain areas, certain functions are totally in the hands of the central government, some in the state government's hand. But there are certain functions which the authorities overlap, and health is one of them. Now, what happens is that for drugs and health, both central government and state government are going to control. So, how do they divide the activities? The central government controls imports, exports, and everything concerned with new drugs. So, new drugs, clinical trials, their testing, their import, their export, whatever it is, manufacture of new drugs also is controlled by the central government. What does the state government control? Is manufacture, distribution, and sale of all other drugs. So a large amount of work is taken over by the state, but the new drug work, anything that is new in the country, is decided by the central government. Like this, there is no clash of authorities between the central and the state government. Now, the device rules, as I told you, they were published in 2017 on 31st of January. They became applicable on the 1st of January 2018, and certain provisions will become applicable in October 2021. In amendments have come in 2020, which have expanded the definition of devices. See, in the rules, whenever you use a word device or a drug, you have to very, very specifically define what you mean. And that is why these definitions are given. Now, what they say that a device is an instrument or an apparatus, an appliance or implant material which may be used alone or in combination with or without software, with or without energy, but does not have any pharmacological or immunological or metabolic activity. It may be used for the diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, treatment, alleviation of disease, investigation, replacement, or modification or support of the anatomy or a physiological process, supporting sustaining systems, disinfection, medical devices, control of consumption, many, many things. So, but these are very specifically defined by the government exactly what they mean by device. Now, we all know that we use a large number of devices. In your logo also you see the stethoscope. This is a device, right? So we have many devices. This is actually a diagnostic device. Now, among the devices which we use commonly or which we hear of commonly, we have the toothbrush. It's a simple device, earbuds, catheters, rice tube, orthopedic implants, They got pacemaker and stents. These are the most important devices. These are all implantable, and these are therapeutic in nature, that they improve the function in some way or the other. Whereas these devices are diagnostic. They can at the most tell you whether the patient is healthy or not, and whether the patient has any disorder. So, what are the simple devices? The blood pressure instrument is a very simple diagnostic device. The stethoscope is another, tongue depressor, glucometer, ECG, EEG, EMG. These are all diagnostic devices. So, within the devices, the classification can be either as therapeutic devices or diagnostic devices. There are other ways of classification also. It's a risk-based classification. How risky is that device? And general way. This is not given by the government, but try to remember it like this, that if the device fails, is it going to be risky or is it not going to be risky? On that basis, the risk of the device is calculated. So, a toothbrush, if it fails, what do? You throw it away, you buy a new one. But your teeth are not going to break because your toothbrush has gone bad. It's a low risk device. A moderate risk device is something like an IV cannula, which is used to give you a drug intravenously. Now, suppose something goes wrong with that, you will have some injury. It will trouble you, but not very much. It can be removed, the bleeding will be stopped, and you'll be okay. It's a low moderate risk device. A dental implant, you've got an artificial tooth put in. Now, if that breaks, that's going to be quite risky, because it's going to cause you a lot of pain, it is going to cause infection, it is going to cause a lot of trouble to you. So that's why it is classified as a high risk device, moderately high risk device. And lastly, a coronary stent, a stent which has been put in the coronary arteries of a patient. If it fails, that person might die. So it's a high risk device. So devices are classified as class A, B, C, and D. Depending upon the risk, class A is low risk, class D is high risk. So always remember, the rules are more strict for high risk devices, the rules are less strict for low risk devices. There's a simple logic. Now, devices can also be classified on the basis of duration of use. How long do you use the device? Let's say a stethoscope. How long do you use it? 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Not more than that. So any device which is used then less than 60 minutes is known as a transient use device. And for this, I will classify a tongue depressor, or I'll classify even a hypodermic needle, a syringe and needle, as a transient use device. Nobody gives an injection for more than 60 minutes. You might give a slow injection that might take about 2-3 minutes. A short-term use means more than 60 minutes but less than 30 days. Now, typically, a Ryle's tube which is introduced through the nose into the stomach is a short-term device. You do not keep a Ryle's tube for more than 30 days. Neither do you usually keep a urinary catheter for longer than 30 days. So they're short-term devices. Long-term devices means those devices which are kept in contact with the body or inside the body for more than 30 days. So orthopedic implants, artificial tooth, what you can say, cardiac stent. Once you're putting the stent, you don't remove it. You don't change the stent every now and then. Actually, you don't change the stent at all. So it is known as a long-term. So classification of devices is based on the risk. It is based on the duration of use, and this is the way. Now, as I told you, the draft rules for drugs, we come to the drugs. That is, the draft rules were published in 2018, and final rules for drugs came in 2019 in March. Now, what do they? These new rules have replaced Schedule Y. Schedule Y was the older rule which originally came in 1989, and in 2019 it has been replaced by the new drugs and clinical trial rules. But the new drugs and clinical trial rules apply only to drugs, investigational new drugs. So, medical devices and veterinary drugs continue to be under Schedule Y, and they do not come under new drugs and clinical trial rules. So now we will see exactly what a new drug is. I see that there's a question also. What is the investigation in new drug? We will deal with that. A new drug is a drug which has not been used in the country to any significant extent. So just because somebody has done a clinical trial of a new drug, doesn't make it a normal drug. It still remains a new drug because it has not been used to a significant effect. A drug which has already been approved in the country for a particular claim, and now you are going to market it for some other claim, then it is called a new drug. For example, remdesivir, or let us say ivermectin, was a drug which was available in the country for the treatment of helminthiasis. This drug has been available for, I think, 20 years now. But recently, ivermectin has been repositioned for COVID. So any manufacturer of ivermectin or marketing of ivermectin for COVID, there it will be called a new drug. So whenever you take two drugs and make combination of them for the first time, they are called a new drug. Now suppose the combination already exists, but you change the ratio of combination. We got a famous combination of what is that? Tinidazole and norfloxacin. Okay, there's a particular ratio 600, 400. Now, if you change that ratio, again it's considered as a new drug. So these three classes of drugs always are what we call a new drugs. Now these drugs remain new drugs for a period of 4 years. After 4 years of a drug being marketed in India, it no longer is known as a new drug. But there are certain drugs which are always known as a new drug. One thing is a modified or a sustained release novel drug delivery system of any drug. It will be always treated as a new drug. And secondly, a vaccine. A vaccine shall always be a new drug. Now, see the current situation. We have the vaccine from Serum Institute, we have Covaxin, and we have Sputnik also from Russia, Gamaleya Institute. All these three are approved by the government of India. Suppose the Pfizer vaccine were to come in India, they will have to repeat clinical trials and they will be known as a new drug. Suppose yet one more vaccine comes in, that will also be called a new drug. The Novavax vaccine, when it comes, that will be called as a new drug. In addition to vaccines, recombinant DNA products derived from living modified organisms, monoclonal antibodies, stem cell derived products, gene therapeutic agents, or xenografts intended to be used as drugs will always remain a new drug. I wonder if you know what a xenograft is. A xenograft is a foreign material which is grafted into the human being. So a stent, which is made of metal, is to an extent a xenograft. It is not a part of the human body. Okay? So these will always remain new drugs, irrespective of the fact how many years have passed of their use in the country. Now, as I said, there are two authorities we have. We have the central government authorities, we have the state government authorities, and here are the details of what all the central government authorities will do. They'll import all classes of medical devices. So, import of any medical device is the responsibility of the central government. Manufacture of class C and class D. See, class A and class B are not risky devices. You don't require the permission of the central government to manufacture a toothbrush or a toothpick. That you can get it locally done. So class A and B, it goes to the state department. C and D goes to central department. All clinical investigations and approved clinical medical devices, everything is to be done by the central government. Clinical performance evaluation, approval of new in vitro diagnostic medical devices. This is all the job of the central government, right? Now we come to the state government. What are their authorities? What is their authority? Now, state government also, remember it, in some states, they call it a state drug controller. In other states, it's called the FDA commissioner. In Maharashtra, it is known as FDA commissioner. We don't call it the drug controller. We call it the FDA commissioner. Their job is the manufacture and sale of distribution of class A and class B medical devices, sale, stock, exhibition, offer for sale, distribution of medical devices of all classes and all drugs. Okay, so there's a clear-cut difference in the responsibility of the state government and the central government. So at no situation are you having two governments looking after the same thing. Now, whether you are working on a device or whether you are working on a drug, prior to doing any human study, you will have to do preclinical studies. Preclinical studies means all those studies which you do before taking beginning human studies. Now, they may involve chemical, pharmacological, pharmaceutical experiments with living organisms, in vitro, in vivo, whatever it is. All that comes under preclinical studies for which you do not require the permission of the CDSCO. But if you are going to use large animals, you require the permission of the Animal Ethics Committee. No other permissions are required to conduct preclinical studies. After the preclinical studies are over, then you can do the clinical studies. Now, clinical studies, for clinical trials, we call them, for drugs, we call them clinical trials. And for devices, we call them clinical investigation. For diagnostic devices, we call it clinical performance investigation. We want to see how that device performs. So this is a difference in terminology. Otherwise, the rules are there more or less the same for all the three types. One being a drug, one being a therapeutic device, and one being a diagnostic device. Secondly, no clinical study. Means when you do a study on a human being, you cannot begin the study unless you have a written approval in your hand from two authorities. One is the central government authority, the Central Licensing Authority or the Drugs Controller General of India. And the second one is your Institutional Ethics Committee. These two approvals have to be in hand. Now, how do you do that? How do you finally bring a new drug into the market? Is that after you have completed the preclinical studies and when you feel that this particular chemical is useful and should be brought as a drug, then either you import it, here you import the drug, or you manufacture it on your own. In both cases, the permission will come from the central government. After that, you begin the clinical studies, and the clinical studies for drugs are divided into phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And after phase 3, you get a permission to market. Before you market it, you will have to manufacture it and then you will market it. Now, let me tell you what is the simple difference between phase 1, 2, and 3. Phase 1 generally is to assess the safety of the drug in human beings. No doubt we have studied the safety of this drug in animals. There is some similarity between animals and human beings, but it isn't 100% similarity. Just because a drug is safe and works in animals doesn't mean you can directly use it on patients. You'll have to study it in human beings and you'll have to study with phase 1, you'll have to begin. One of the reasons is a drug, normally laboratory animals tolerate more than 10 times the dose what human beings can tolerate. So you have to study what levels of the drug can be tolerated by human being. And phase 1 is mainly to find out the safety and the tolerability of the drug. This is generally done in healthy volunteers. Generally. In some cases where you have got anti-cancer drugs and all, you don't give them in healthy volunteers. There you use patient, but otherwise, most of the phase 1 studies are done in healthy volunteers. During phase 2, you pick up a small number of patients, anywhere up to 100 at the most patients, with the target disease, that is the disease which your drug is expected to treat, but nothing else. So if you're having a drug for diabetes, you pick up diabetic patients, but they should not have other problems like liver disease, kidney disease, and hypertension and all that. You try to take up as simple cases as possible and study whether your drug really works in phase 2. In phase 1, you require very small number of people, maybe 20, 30 people. Here you might go up to 100 people. Now, after you've shown that the drug works in this phase, then you go to phase 3, where you use any number of people, maybe sometimes at as many as 5,000 people would be tested. And then you do a comparative trial with standard drugs, and that trial is completed. After this trial is completed, you approach the drug controller. Actually, you approach the drug controller after every phase. You'll have to produce the details, the results of every study to the drug controller, and then he gives you permission for the next study, and then next. And after phase 3, when you submit all data to the drug controller and the drug controller is satisfied, then he gives you the permission to market it. So you'll have to manufacture the drug and then market the drug. So this is the system for drugs. So what is the system for devices? Again, devices, either you will have to manufacture them or you will have to import it. Yeah, there are the only two ways of getting a device. Now again, both of these permissions come from the central government. After you have tested them in animals, now devices cannot be tested very thoroughly in animals. There's a big problem. Like a artificial tooth for a human being, you cannot fit it in a dog. You cannot fit a tooth which looks, which has the shape and consistency required for the human being in a dog. It cannot be done. So it will have to be studied in human being. The clinical studies on devices are divided only in two types. There it was phase 1, 2, 3. Here it is pilot and pivotal. In the pilot study, we try to find out whether the study design is proper, whether the device works, whether the patients are comfortable, whether the way you have designed the study, does it actually work? Because you see, whenever you make plans, most of the plans look very nice on paper. When you start putting those plans in action, then you might find that there is something wrong. So, pilot studies are actually conducted in order to find out whether the plans are good or not. After they are complete, and you require hardly 10, 20 patients to do a pilot study, after that, you do the pivotal study on a larger number. But here, larger number means only about 50, 60, at the most 100. We never go to thousands and all that. So, that sort of studies cannot be done with devices, and only pivotal studies will require about 100 patients maximum. After these are done, we submit the reports to the drug controller, and the drug controller might give us a approval to market it. Then we will have to manufacture the device, and then after manufacturing, we will go in for marketing the device. Now, there are regulatory authorities, so especially for both drugs and for what you say devices, at every stage you will have to know where you have to go. Now, these are 2, 3 charts I have prepared by which you will understand that whose permission you require. CLA means Central Licensing Authority or the Drugs Controller General of India. And SLA means the State Licensing Authority of the or the FDA Commissioner. So this chart I have prepared it so that for the understanding of you people, of course, I think the organizers will help you get a copy of these slides so that you know that with whom you have to go for what sort of thing. Again, as I said, general rule is that for less risky things, you go to the state. For more risky things, you go to the center. So if you are talking about A and B group of devices, the state handles it. But if you are talking about C and D type of devices, the center handles it. Okay. Now, you have to pay particular fees every time when you make an application to the drug controllers or to the state, wherever it is. They have to spend time, they have to study your applications. Very often, you have to submit a large amount of data, and hence they need to appoint experts sometimes to study your data and give you a decision. So, therefore, there are fees required for that. So, if you want to make you want a license to manufacture some device for sale, the application number is this, and this is the fee, 5,000 rupees. If you are going to import a device, the fees are much higher because imported devices are more expensive and the fees are dependent upon the type of the device. $1,000 for A type device and $2,000 for B type of device. Now, when you want to manufacture the devices in India, you can either manufacture it in your own factory or you can get it manufactured in a factory which is already established, approved, and everything. That sort of manufacture is called, that license is called a loan license. That you take a license to manufacture your product in somebody else's premises. That is, you loan your license to that person, so he manufactures that particular item on your license for you. So that is called a loan license. And in devices and in drugs, a lot of loan licensing is allowed. Now, you'll be surprised to know that majority of the drugs which you see in the market, which are being marketed by, let's say, Sanofi or Glaxo or somebody else, they're never manufactured by them. Very often those drugs are manufactured by some small company, and then they manufacture it for these big companies, and they manufacture the thing and give it to the big company. The big companies do the marketing and selling of that. Okay. There's this particular terminology, CT, and E, clinical trial, test, and examination. Sometimes when you prepare a drug or import a drug or import a device, initially you import it for clinical trials, for testing the device, for examining the device. You're not importing that device or manufacturing that device for the sake of marketing it. No, you are doing it initially for studying the device. So that is called CTT and E. In drugs also, it is called for examination, test, and analysis. And that fees are generally lower. You are allowed to bring in a small number of devices, small number of units of devices, a small amount of drugs for this purpose. These are for experimental purpose. Now, coming to, as I told you in another thing, that you require the permission of the drug controller. In addition, you require the permission of your institutional ethics committee. The institutional ethics committee of your institute must be registered with the Central Drugs and Standards and Control Organization. Now, whether you are doing a trial of a device or of a drug, the ethics committee which is required has to be registered only with the CDSCO. There is another type of ethics committee to be registered with the Department of Health Research of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare under different rule. But that particular ethics committee does a totally different job. It does not review and approve trials of drugs and devices. So this is the sort of mechanism that you have. So you require a written permission. It's often called a no objection certificate from the CDSCO, unless it is an academic study. I see that there's already a question what an academic study is. We'll come to that. The study should be registered with a registry of India, which is under the Indian Council of Medical Research, which is known as the Clinical Trial Registry of India, or CTRI. It is available at a website, www.ctri.nic.in. So NIC is the government domain. And you can only begin the trial after you get a permission of the CDSCO, after you register your trial on the CTRI, and after you get a clear-cut approval of the registered ethics committee. So these are the steps which you need to take before you can begin any clinical study. Now, after you begin the study and after you complete it, you will have to maintain certain records. You will have to maintain all the data, records, registers, and other documents related to the functioning and the review of the clinical trial for a period of 5 years. And all the details, the protocol, the CRF, the ICF, the field documents, the results, everything will have to be maintained for a period of at least 5 years. And if you are working on a regulatory drug or a regulated device, it is recommended that you will have to maintain it for at least 15 years, right? So that at any time the government can come back and say that we want to have a look at all your documents. How did you produce such a drug, or how did you test such a device? We want to have a look at it, and you should be able to produce all that. So, on the approval of a new project, before you begin the marketing or anything, when you get your approval from the clinical ethics committee, the ethics committee will have to inform you that such and such project has been approved, and this information must go within 15 days. Every 3 months, every quarter, rather, and that is 3 months, the ethics committee must inform, and the investigators must inform the drug controller how many patients or participants have been recruited, how the study is going on. Every 6 months you have to produce a status report about your trial. And if at all you terminate the study before completing it, then within 30 days you have to communicate to the drug controller the detailed reasons why you have terminated the study. So these are in brief the requirements. I think my time is almost over, and I believe my this one is almost over. Now, during your study, whether it is of a drug or whether it is of a device, and you must be reading in the newspapers, even if in vaccines, certain people get adverse events. Those adverse events may be directly related to your trial or may not be related. It can happen that a patient who is, or an individual who is taking part in your trial, goes and has a fight with somebody and they break each other's head. That would not be related to your trial. But certainly, if you are doing a trial of a drug and the drug makes a person a bit, let's say, sedated, and he tries to drive a car, it's likely that he'll meet with an accident. And that adverse event is related to the drug. Okay? So the ethics committee will always try to do a causality analysis of the serious adverse event. We are not talking about minor adverse event. You see, somebody gets a headache here and a painful shoulder there. That we are not worried about. But serious adverse events, which may cause death or causes hospitalization or could have caused death or leads to, let's say, permanent injury or causes damage to a fetus in utero, that is called a serious adverse event. In that situation, the sponsor will have to provide the reimbursement of the medical expenses incurred by the participant. And if at all something permanent happens to the participant, either a permanent injury or death, then a compensation may have to be paid for to the participant or his her relatives within 30 days in case the death or injury is related to the drug. So in general, these are the rules which have been made so that you protect the people. For the compensation, the rules are common for both devices and drugs, and they are controlled by the same rules, but they are given under different rule numbers. Rule 122 DAB for devices, and Rule 39, 40, 41 for drugs. Rule 42 gives you the detailed procedure of compensation, and the device rules are almost identical. So with this, I shall stop. I've completed, I think, 45 minutes of my time, and any one of you has any questions, will be happy to take them. But I think before I take your questions, Preeti, should I deal with these 5 questions which you have already sent?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the first question is, what is an investigational new drug? Any drug which is still under clinical trials is called an investigational new drug. After the trials are complete, the word investigational is dropped out and it becomes a new drug. After 4 years of marketing, the word new is also dropped, it becomes a drug. So drug passes these 3 stages. Initially, it's an investigational new drug, and it becomes an investigational new drug only when clinical trials begin. When you are testing it in animals, it is not a drug. During clinical trials, it's an investigational new drug. After trials are complete and for 4 years of marketing, it is a new drug. After 4 years, it's just a drug. Orphan drug is a drug which is used to treat a disease that affects less than 500,000 people in India. If a disease affects less than 5 lakh people, any drug to treat that disease will be called an orphan drug. What is the academic clinical trial? Suppose a drug or a device is used for one particular indication, and you think that it can be used for another indication, and you want to do a trial for that. It is called an academic clinical trial. You don't have to take the permission of the drug controller of India, but that data cannot be used for making a new claim application. How are IVDs, in vitro diagnostics, classified? I've told you they're classified in uh, class A, B, C, and D depending upon the risk. Like EEG will be classified as C or D. A CT machine will be classified as C or D, but a stethoscope will be classified as A. Lastly, regulatory authority for import of devices or drugs. The import of all devices or drugs is controlled by the central government. That ends the 5 questions that have been asked. Now, if anybody has any question, I'll be happy to take them.
Yes, sir. There are some more questions, so I
Sure.
can ask that there was certain provisions of rules which you said in the PPT, which will be applicable in October 2021 for medical devices. So can
No,
you just
yeah.
tell what are the
You
rules?
see, what has been stated in the medical device rules, that all devices will have to be registered with the central government. Now, what has happened? These rules came only in 2000, became applicable in 2018. Till 2018, none of these devices were registered with the drug controller. So now they have given time till October 2021 for registering of these devices. No registration will be allowed after 2021 October. So that is the rule which is applicable, which still remains to be completely applicable. That's all. No other rule.
Okay. And sir, there is another question that like pharmacovigilance, is there any regulatory check for medical devices when
Of
once
course,
they are marketed
of course, the same pharmacovigilance works. It
for
is
devices?
pharmacovigilance. It is called
Okay.
device pharmacovigilance, but the same pharmacovigilance will take place.
Okay. So I think these were the questions from the students' end. So with this interesting session by Dr. Ravindra Gui sir, let us conclude these sessions for today. Please join tomorrow's session as per the given schedule 15 minutes before the mentioned timing of the conference with your name and institute, as the system will mark your attendance accordingly. So take care. See you all tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for the wonderful session. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day.